Hello, this is part number 47, preparation for NSE4 exam. And now we're taking FortiGate security firewall policies. What are firewall policies? Any traffic passing through a FortiGate must be associated with a firewall policy. A policy is a set of instructions that controls traffic flow through the FortiGate. These instructions determine where the traffic goes, how it's handled, and whether it's allowed to pass through the FortiGate. And firewall policies, in summary, are sets of rules that specify which traffic is allowed through the FortiGate and what FortiGate should do with the traffic matches policy. What can it do? It could allow or deny this traffic. Should the traffic be allowed? FortiGate bases this decision on simple criteria. FortiGate analyzes the source of the traffic, the destination IP address, and the service. If the policy does not block the traffic, FortiGate begins a more computationally expensive security profile inspection. It's often known as UTM, Unified Threat Management, such as antivirus, application control, and web filtering, if you've chosen it in the policy. These inspections block the traffic if there is a security risk. For example, if the traffic contains a virus. Otherwise, the traffic is allowed. Will be the network address translation NAT applied? Will be there authentication required? Firewall policies also determine the answers to these questions. After processing is finished, FortiGate forwards the packet toward its destination. FortiGate looks for the matching firewall policy from top to bottom, and if there is a match found, the traffic is processed based on the firewall policy. If no match is found, the traffic is dropped by the default implicit deny firewall policy. So policies define which traffic matches them and how to process matching traffic. When a new IP session packet arrives, FortiGate first starts at the top of the list to look for a policy match and applies the first matching policy. If there is no matching policy, implicit deny makes the FortiGate to drop this packet. Each policy matches traffic and applies security by referring to the objects that you have defined, such as addresses and profiles. Common policy types are firewall policy. Firewall policy is a policy that consists of a set of rules that control traffic through the FortiGate. Firewall virtual wire pair policy. It is a virtual wire pair policy that is used to control the traffic between the interfaces in a virtual wire pair. Multicast policy. A multicast policy allows multicast packets to pass from one interface to another. Local in policy is the local in policy controls traffic to a FortiGate interface and can be used to restrict administrative access. DOS policy, denial of service policy, checks for anomalous patterns in network traffic that arrives at the FortiGate interface. By default, only firewall policy is visible under policy and object. Other policies are available based on the interface configurations and advanced features enabled through feature visibility. So, object used by policies: interface and zone, address, user, and internet service objects, service definitions, schedules, NAT rules, network address translation rules, and security profiles. Policy types are firewall policy, could be IPv4 version 4 or IPv6 version 6. Firewall wire pair policy IPv4 and IPv6. Proxy policy, multicast policy, local in policy, DOS, denial of service policy, and traffic shaping. By default, only firewall policy is visible under policy and object. And when a packet arrives, how does FortiGate find a matching policy? Each policy has match criteria which you can define using following objects. First, incoming interface. Second, outgoing interface. Then source. It could be IP address, user, internet services. Destination, IP address or internet services. Service, IP protocol and port number. Schedule, specific times to apply the policy. If the traffic matches a firewall policy, then FortiGate applies the action configured in the firewall policy. If the action is set to deny, FortiGate drops the session. As here we can see that we definitely need to know all well-known ports to find out if the applied policy is what we need. For example, please quickly double check. Do you know what are DHCP ports, DNS, SNMP, NTP, LDAP, LDAPs, RDP, SSH, Telnet? Probably you already know most of these ports, but just to repeat, I would like to include this important part from CompTIA A+, which I passed a couple of years ago. DHCP ports are UDP 6768, DNS domain name service ports UDP and TCP port 53, SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol, port 161, NTP, UDP port 123, LDAP, TCP port 389, LDAPs, TCP port 636, RDP, TCP port 3389, SSH, Secure Shell, TCP port 22, Telnet, TCP port 23. We already met here information about SMB and FTP, TFTP. So let's also repeat some information about these basics. So server message block, SMB, Microsoft File and Print Protocol, originally TCP port 139. It is using net bias over TCP IP. It is updated as Common Internet File System, CIFS, TCP port 445. Now referred to as SMB 3.0 TCP 445. FTP, File Transfer Protocol. It uses two ports, TCP port 21, command port, and TCP port 20, data port. TCP port 21 is used for control. All transmissions in FTP are in clear text. Active mode, client tells the server what the port is using. The server starts the data connection and in a separate session. The client's firewall may interpret that connection attempt as an unauthorized outside connection and block the server's data connection. And in passive mode, the client starts the data connection in a separate session. The client's firewall notes the client's outbound connection and permits the server inbound response. TFTP, Trivial File Transfer Protocol. It uses UDP port 69. TFTP is a simplified version of FTP. There is no authentication. All transmissions are in clear text. Often it's used to save and load router and switch operating systems. For example, as we already studied that we can use TFTP for that purpose for FortiGate, for FortiGate firmware updates, for example, and for configuration files. And because it uses UDP with no flow control or error checking, it is not well suited to cross multiple routers or traverse many network segments. SFTP, it's called like Secure File Transfer Protocol, or alternatively it's called like SSH File Transfer Protocol. It encrypts the file transfer and as a network protocol for access, transferring, and managing files and remote systems. As for Layer 7 messaging protocols, SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, it uses port 587 TCP and TCP port 465 is legacy port. It also uses a TCP port 25, but it is not used today. POP3, Post Office Protocol 3. It was one of the most commonly used internet mail protocols for retrieving emails from server to local client. It is supported by all modern email clients and web servers. POP3 allows you to download email messages on your local computers and read when you are offline. POP3 uses port number 110, 110 is default POP3 clear text non-encrypted port. As port with encryption, SSL TLS encryption, it uses port 995, encrypted secure port. IMAP4, Internet Message Access Protocol 4. A mail protocol which is used for accessing email or on a remote web server from the local client. IMAP is one of the most commonly used internet mail protocols for retrieving emails. IMAP 4 is supported by all modern email clients and web servers. Messages stay on email server. IMAP 4 uses port 143 if it is using it in clear text. Otherwise, it's using IMAP 4 SSL and uses TCP port 993. HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It's used to carry web traffic, TCP port 18. It is stateless, which means that it doesn't attempt to remember anything about the previous web session. It has following requests, such as get, post, put, head, delete, and options. Uniform Resource Locator. Typically, it could using port 80 and port 443. Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure HTTPS uses port 443. It uses secure socket layer SSL encryption for data. It is stateless as HTTP. It should not be confused with SSL layer 5 protocol. Layer 7 Streaming Media Protocols. Session Initiation Protocol, SIP. SIP establishes, manages, and tears down voice over IP calls and multimedia conferences, and the SIP protocol is a member of voice over IP protocol family. TCP and UDP ports 5060 unencrypted and port 5061 encrypted version. Streaming Media Protocol H.323. It is a recommendation from ITU Telecommunications Standard Sector. It defines the protocols to provide audio and visual communication sessions on any packet network. TCP port 1720 is used by H.323 teleconferencing protocol, most commonly encountered in Microsoft Net Meeting during call setup negotiation. Other ports used by H.323. 1718 Gatekeeper Discovery UDP port. 1719 Gatekeeper RAS UDP. 1720 H.323 call setup TCP port. 1731 also TCP port for audio call control. Layer 7 Infrastructure Management Protocols. DHCP. You already probably know this protocol because it's the most common way how we assign IP addresses to the DHCP pool of addresses, and it's an automated way to assign IP addresses to hosts on the network. Clients request an IP address from any listening DHCP server. DHCP server has pre-configured pool of available IP addresses. Server leases an address for a limited time to the client. DHCP is based on the earlier BOOTP protocol. Communications are broadcast in clear text with no authentication. DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, uses UDP port 67 and UDP port 68. It is used by the client, and port 67 is for destination port of the server. DNS, Domain Name System. It's a hierarchical, decentralized naming system for computers, services, and other resources connected to the internet or a private network. DNS is used for human convenience, so we don't need to memorize IP addresses. Maps friendly names to IP addresses. Uses UDP and TCP port 53. UDP ports they used for queries, and TCP are used for zone transfers, replication between servers. Transmissions are in clear text. There are different types of DNS records, like A records, 4A records, AAAA records, CNAME, MX records, PTR records, NS, SOA, SRV, TXT, and other types. Infrastructure Management Protocol, one of the most famous is SNMP, Simple Network Management Protocol. It is used to monitor and manage devices on networks. SNMP Manager uses a Management Information Based MIB to ask an agent service on devices, servers, services about their current status. SNMP uses UDP port 161 for manager queries and agent replies. UDP port 161 for device agent to raise traps, send preconfigured alerts to the manager. The manager needs to use the same community string as the device. It's a very simple authentication mechanism, and most systems use both public and private community strings. NTP, Network Time Protocol. It's widely deployed time synchronization service. NTP uses UDP port 123. NTP server usually has a precise time, probably obtained from the automatic clock, and NTP is sent in clear text. SNTP, Simple Network Time Protocol. It's a less complex implementation of NTP, of Network Time Protocol. It uses the same protocol but without requiring the storage of state over extended periods of time. LDAP, Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. Search and copy data from directory services. It is a lightweight version of X.500 Directory Access Protocol. So it was complicated version. There were many standards, but later it came to LDAP, to Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. It's an open standard, quite versatile, deployed by many products and businesses types. Directory services such as MS Active Directory Communications, finance, manufacturing, retail, education, and government. LDAPs, with S at the end, is a lightweight directory access protocol secure. LDAP runs over SSL, TCP port 636. LDAP provides additional security by supporting automatically encoding passwords with one-way digits or encryption. It's extensible authentication via SASL framework certificates through Kerberos tickets and multi-factor authentication. It provides password policy features like password expiration, password quality validation, and account lockout from too many failed attempts. LDAP is a fine-grained access control that can impose restrictions on the data that is available to various classes of users. LDAP is also open standard protocol. So we will continue about ports and numbers in the next video. Happy preparation for your exam. Thank you.